In the far reaches of the Warhammer 40K universe, there exists a terrifying and shadowy practice, dark rituals carried out on forsaken planets, their histories all but erased from the galaxy's memory. These rituals, ancient and forbidden, have been passed down through generations, hidden in the deepest corners of the galaxy, where the light of the Emperor's reach cannot touch. These are the dark rites that summon cosmic horrors, beings from beyond the known universe, entities so immense and incomprehensible that even their mere presence threatens to tear the fabric of reality itself. But what drives these cults, factions, and lone sorcerers to summon such unimaginable terrors? It's not merely a thirst for power. No, it's something far more insidious. These dark rituals tap into the fabric of the universe's deepest, most forbidden knowledge, drawing from powers that were never meant to be understood by mortal minds. The cosmic horrors they summon aren't just physical entities. They are the very embodiment of the universe's darker, chaotic forces. They are the nightmares that lurk in the space between the stars, the unknowable forces of destruction that can unmake entire worlds with but a thought. In the void of forgotten planets, where reality blurs with madness, these rituals reach their peak, bending time and space to their will. But every sacrifice made, every soul offered to these malevolent gods comes at a cost, a price that will haunt the summoners and their worlds for eternity. So, what are these dark rituals? And what do they really sacrifice in order to bring these horrors to life? Let's dive deeper into the forbidden practices of the darkest corners of the galaxy, where the very fabric of reality itself trembles in fear. The nature of dark planet rituals is something far beyond the comprehension of most beings in the galaxy. These rituals are not mere acts of sorcery or witchcraft. They are the desperate acts of those who seek forbidden power at any cost, tapping into the deepest, most incomprehensible forces in the universe. What sets these rituals apart from others conducted throughout the galaxy is their ancient origins and their connection to forgotten knowledge, knowledge so dangerous that even the most powerful sorcerers and cult leaders fear it. These aren't your typical summoning ceremonies or petty arcane practices. These are rites so dark that they require the very fabric of reality to be torn, manipulated, and remade to bring the cosmic horrors into existence. The rituals themselves are a blend of ancient forbidden sorcery and lost technologies, the remnants of civilizations long gone and forgotten. The very places where these rituals are performed, remote, desolate planets, are often the last survivors of these once great societies, abandoned after their knowledge led them to madness and destruction. There's a sense of foreboding when you think about these planets, barren and twisted by the very rituals they once held in reverence. The landscapes themselves seem to cry out in anguish, echoes of the dark forces that are continually summoned upon them. Many believe that these rituals are the last vestiges of a civilization's desperate grasp at immortality, perhaps even an attempt to transcend the material universe altogether. The knowledge required to perform these rituals doesn't just come from spellbooks or whispered incantations. It is woven into the very bones of these ancient places, encoded in the ruins and artifacts left behind by those who first ventured too far into the darkness. These rituals are not just spells. They are rites of passage, deeply connected to the very essence of the planet itself. They are born from the need to understand the fundamental truths of the universe, truths that were meant to remain hidden from mortal eyes. What's fascinating and terrifying is how these rituals are passed down, almost like a disease. They are not taught in the traditional sense. They are unearthed, discovered in old ruins, or revealed in dreams by dark entities who thrive on the terror of those who seek them. It's said that the first practitioners of these rituals didn't necessarily set out to summon horrors, but instead hoped to tap into the primal forces of the universe. But with each summoning, the horrors became more real, more terrifying, until they could no longer control what they had unleashed. One of the most chilling things about these rituals is their complexity. They don't follow the typical structure of your average sorceress summoning. They often require the alignment of the stars, the presence of rare celestial bodies, or the involvement of specific planetary conditions that can enhance the ritual's power. These aren't rituals that can simply be performed with a few words spoken under a full moon. No, these are complex affairs requiring vast preparations and sacrifices. They can span decades, even centuries, and often involve entire generations of practitioners, their souls bound to the ritual's ultimate goal. The most unsettling part? These dark rituals are not just about summoning creatures. They are about tearing apart the very barriers between reality and the unknown. The entities brought forth are often nothing more than whispers of beings from beyond the known universe, things that exist outside the laws of physics and time, entities that can warp reality and bend it to their will. And yet, as horrific as they are, there's something almost magnetic about them. They are the ultimate test of power and control, a dangerous game played by those who are willing to sacrifice everything for the chance to command such terrifying beings. The followers of these rituals are not mindless cultists. They are often brilliant scholars, dark philosophers, and power-hungry leaders who seek the ultimate truth, no matter the cost. To them, the risk is worth it. They don't just seek power for the sake of ruling. They want to understand the fabric of existence itself, to peer into the void and touch the divine. But in their pursuit, they often find themselves trapped by their own ambitions, caught in a cycle of corruption and madness as they try to control the horrors they have summoned. They become the ultimate victims of their own dark rituals. And let's not forget the planet itself. These dark rituals can only be performed on worlds that have been tainted, twisted by the sheer force of the energies required. These planets are often the remnants of past civilizations that reached too far into the dark, much like the practitioners who now perform their forbidden rites. The very soil, air, and water on these worlds are saturated with malevolent power, making them the ideal breeding grounds for the horrors summoned in these rituals. It's a tragic, almost poetic cycle, worlds that give birth to unimaginable horrors because they were the first to seek the ultimate power. But why do these rituals still exist? Why are they practiced by some, even after the catastrophic consequences of previous summoning attempts? Many speculate that it is simply the insatiable desire for power, the unyielding need to transcend mortal limits. Others believe it is driven by desperation, a need to break free from the constraints of the material world. Regardless of the motivations, one thing is clear. These rituals are not mere acts of magic. They are an intersection of ancient forgotten knowledge, a drive for ultimate power, and a desperation to reach beyond the veil of reality. And once these horrors are summoned, there is no going back. The darkness, once unleashed, can never be contained. When we talk about sacrifices in the context of dark planet rituals, it's not just about blood and flesh, though those are certainly part of it. The truth is, these rituals demand a far deeper, more personal form of sacrifice. They require the very essence of life, the raw emotional and spiritual energy that makes a being whole. It's not enough to simply spill blood or break bones. These horrors feed on something far more profound, something that transcends the physical. The more potent the sacrifice, the stronger the connection to the dark forces being summoned. For many of these rituals, the most common offering is life itself, but not just any life. It has to be meaningful, potent, and most importantly, filled with fear, pain, or despair. It's said that the screams of the dying, their final moments of terror, are what truly power these dark rites. This is why so many of these rituals involve mass executions, genocides, or the slow, agonizing deaths of entire populations. The energy released from such suffering acts as a beacon, a call to the horrors lurking beyond the veil of reality, drawing them closer like predators to the scent of blood. But it's not just about death. In some cases, the sacrifice is more psychological or spiritual. Entire cults have been known to sacrifice their sanity, willingly descending into madness as a means of breaking down the barriers between dimensions. They offer their very minds, their grasp on reality, to the dark powers they seek to summon. It's a twisted form of devotion, an act of complete surrender that leaves them forever changed, their minds shattered, but their souls forever bound to the entities they worship. And then there are the more unconventional sacrifices. In some cases, the ritual might demand something truly unique, like the essence of a dying star or the tortured soul of a powerful psyker. These aren't just living sacrifices, they are offerings of cosmic significance, pieces of the very universe itself. The sacrifice of a star, for instance, could unleash a cataclysmic amount of energy, a raw, chaotic force that can tear open the very fabric of reality. It's the kind of power that can reshape entire worlds, bend time, or create new realms of existence. It's the ultimate price, a sacrifice that echoes through the cosmos for millennia. Some believe that these dark entities demand not just the lives of others, but also the very souls of their summoners. This is where things get particularly disturbing, as many of these practitioners willingly offer themselves as sacrifices, knowing full well that they will be consumed, body and soul, by the beings they seek to call forth. It's an act of ultimate devotion, a final surrender to the darkness, where the summoner's identity, memories, and very existence are erased, absorbed into the endless hunger of the cosmic horror they have unleashed. Of course, not all sacrifices are purely physical or even spiritual. Some dark planet rituals require the surrender of more abstract concepts, like hope, love, or the very concept of innocence. Entire worlds have been plunged into despair, their populations reduced to soulless husks, all to feed the insatiable hunger of a cosmic horror. It's a form of sacrifice that transcends the physical, an offering of pure, unfiltered emotion, the very essence of what it means to be alive. There are also those who believe that the greatest sacrifices are not just lives or souls, but entire realities. Some rituals are said to demand the destruction of entire dimensions, the complete unraveling of time and space in a given area, to create a doorway wide enough for a cosmic horror to pass through. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that a single ritual, performed in the right place at the right time, could destroy entire realities, erasing them from existence to make way for something far more terrible. It's this scale of sacrifice that makes these dark planet rituals so dangerous. They aren't just about summoning a creature from the void. They are about rewriting the very laws of the universe, bending reality to the will of a being that exists beyond our comprehension. The cost of such power is immense, a price that can never truly be paid in full. Those who attempt these rituals often find themselves forever changed, their bodies twisted, their minds shattered, their very souls consumed by the darkness they sought to control. And yet, despite the unimaginable cost, these rituals continue. There are always those willing to pay the ultimate price, to offer everything they have, everything they are, for a taste of the power that lies just beyond the veil of reality. It's a hunger that can never be satisfied, a thirst that drives the most twisted, power-hungry souls in the galaxy to commit acts of unspeakable horror, all in the name of summoning the nightmares that dwell in the darkest corners of the cosmos. When we talk about the cosmic horrors that these dark planet rituals aim to summon, we're stepping into a realm of unimaginable terror. These aren't just monsters or demons, but beings that exist on a completely different level of reality. They are the nightmares that claw at the edges of the galaxy, ancient entities that defy all logic and reason. To describe them as merely dangerous or powerful is a vast understatement. They are living embodiments of chaos, destruction, and madness, forces so immense that they can unmake entire worlds with their presence alone. Many believe that these cosmic horrors exist in the spaces between realities, where the laws of physics break down and time itself becomes meaningless. They are the echoes of the first moments of creation, remnants of a time when the universe was still forming, raw and untamed. Some even speculate that they are older than the stars themselves, predating the birth of the galaxy and perhaps even the fabric of reality itself. This is why they are so dangerous. Their very existence is a contradiction, a tear in the fabric of the universe that defies all known laws. These entities are not just physical beings. They are concepts given form, the pure, undiluted essence of chaos and destruction. They don't just consume matter and energy. They consume reality itself, bending it to their will, twisting it into shapes that defy comprehension. To look upon one of these beings is to risk madness, to have your mind shattered by the sheer impossibility of what you are witnessing. This is why so many who encounter them are driven to insanity, their minds unable to process the horrors they have glimpsed. Some of the most well-known of these cosmic horrors are said to be the ancient gods of chaos themselves, beings like Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, though even they are but a fraction of the true scale of what exists beyond the veil. There are whispers of even older, more terrible entities, beings that the gods of chaos themselves might fear, ancient powers that slumber in the darkness beyond the known universe, waiting for the day when the barriers between realities finally break down, allowing them to consume all that exists. But not all cosmic horrors are gods. Some are more like living forces of nature, mindless engines of destruction that exist only to consume and destroy. These beings have no will of their own, no consciousness as we understand it. They are pure, raw chaos, driven only by the need to spread and consume. To them, entire star systems are nothing more than fuel, their worlds and suns merely stepping stones on their path of destruction. They don't hate, they don't plan, they simply exist, a constant, unending force of entropy that seeks to unmake all of creation. And then, there are the entities that defy all categorization, beings so strange and alien that even the most ancient and powerful sorcerers struggle to comprehend them. These are the true cosmic horrors, beings that exist outside of time and space, whose very thoughts can warp reality, whose mere presence can drive entire populations to madness. They are the things that whisper to psychers in their dreams, the shadows that move at the edge of perception, the nightmares that haunt the deepest parts of the human soul. What makes these beings so terrifying is not just their power, but their sheer indifference to the suffering they cause. They are not evil in the way that we understand it. They are simply beyond such petty concepts as good and evil. To them, we are less than insects, less than dust in the wind, mere specks of consciousness in a universe too vast and uncaring to notice our struggles. And yet, despite this, they are drawn to our suffering, our fear, our pain. They feed on our darkest emotions, growing stronger with each sacrifice, each ritual, each act of madness performed in their name. Some believe that these entities are not just passive observers, but active participants in the corruption of reality. They whisper to those who are desperate enough to listen, offering them power, knowledge, and eternal life in exchange for their loyalty. They manipulate entire civilizations, twisting their cultures and religions to suit their own twisted purposes, all in the name of feeding their endless hunger. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that our entire history might be nothing more than a series of carefully orchestrated steps leading to our own destruction. A cosmic game played by beings too vast for us to comprehend. And yet, despite all of this, there are still those who seek out these beings, who offer their lives and their souls in exchange for a taste of the power that lies beyond the veil of reality. They are the mad, the desperate, the broken, those who have nothing left to lose, or perhaps those who simply crave the ultimate form of power, no matter the cost. To them, the cosmic horrors are not just nightmares, but gods, beings to be worshipped and feared, the ultimate expression of the universe's dark, uncaring nature. It's this twisted, almost religious devotion that makes these dark planet rituals so dangerous. The beings they summon are not just powerful, they are the very essence of chaos, beings that can twist reality itself to their will, that can consume entire worlds with a thought. They are the ultimate predators, the final darkness at the end of all things, the nightmares that wait for us in the depths of the void. And once they are unleashed, there is no force in the universe that can stand against them. When we start talking about the dark entities behind these rituals, things get even more twisted. It's tempting to just assume that these horrors are purely the work of the Chaos Gods, those infamous patrons of madness and destruction. And yes, they are often involved, their influence stretching like a corrupting tendril into the darkest corners of the galaxy. But to reduce it all to just the whims of Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, or Slaanesh is to miss the far more complex, layered nature of these cosmic forces. The truth is, the entities behind these rituals aren't always aligned with chaos, at least not in the way we typically understand it. Chaos is, at its core, a force of change, corruption, and boundless ambition. It feeds on the emotions and desires of sentient beings, twisting them into shapes that defy reason. The Dark Gods thrive on war, decay, deceit, and excess, and their influence can be felt in countless dark rituals across the galaxy. But even the Chaos Gods, as mighty as they are not the only forces at play. Some of the entities summoned through these dark planet rituals are older, stranger, and perhaps even more terrifying than the ruinous powers themselves. Take, for example, the concept of the primordial gods, entities that existed long before the birth of the Chaos Gods, before the immaterium was shaped by the fears and desires of mortal minds. These ancient beings are said to be remnants of a forgotten age, the last echoes of a time when the universe itself was still young, its laws not yet fully formed. They are beings of pure, raw potential, unshaped by the constraints of reality, creatures that defy all attempts at understanding or classification. To them, the Chaos Gods are little more than upstart children, beings of limited scope and ambition compared to the vast unknowable horrors that lurk in the depths of the cosmos. And then there are the nameless entities, the things that dwell in the spaces between realities, in the cracks and fractures of the universe itself. These beings are not gods in the traditional sense. They have no followers, no temples, no doctrines. They exist purely as forces of nature, like black holes or supernovae, vast, uncaring, and utterly indifferent to the lives of those they consume. They are the shadows that move at the edge of perception, the whispers that drive men to madness, the beings that watch from the darkness as entire civilizations rise and fall. To even acknowledge their existence is to risk inviting their attention, a fate that no sane being would willingly choose. Of course, the Chaos Gods themselves are not above using these entities for their own ends. They often strike dark bargains with these primordial forces, using them as weapons in their endless wars against one another. It's a relationship of convenience, a temporary alliance born of mutual destruction. But these alliances are always fragile, always dangerous, for even the Dark Gods themselves cannot fully control these ancient horrors. They are forces of chaos, yes, but chaos on a scale that defies even the ambitions of the ruinous powers. And yet, there are those who worship these entities, who see them as the ultimate expression of the universe's dark, uncaring nature. These cultists believe that by aligning themselves with these primordial forces, they can gain power beyond the dreams of even the most powerful chaos champions. It's a twisted, nihilistic form of faith, one that sees the destruction of all things not as a tragedy, but as an inevitable, glorious end to the cycle of existence. These worshippers often go to extreme lengths to prove their devotion, offering up entire worlds as sacrifices, their populations reduced to nothing more than fuel for the dark fires of their gods. And then there are the truly mad, those who seek to summon beings that even the Chaos Gods fear. These are the cults that dig deeper, that reach further into the void than any sane being would dare. They seek to summon the things that dwell in the darkness beyond the immaterium, the beings that the gods themselves whisper of only in hushed tones. These entities are the true cosmic horrors, the things that watch from the darkness as galaxies are born and die, the creatures that existed long before the first star ignited in the void. They are the final predators, the ultimate destroyers, the beings that will one day consume even the gods themselves. It's this kind of madness that drives the darkest of planet rituals. These are not just acts of worship or devotion. They are desperate, reckless gambits for power, attempts to call forth beings that defy all understanding. And for those who succeed, the price is always high. They become the playthings of these entities, their bodies and souls twisted into shapes that defy reason, their minds shattered by the sheer weight of the truths they have glimpsed. In the end, the dark entities behind these rituals are as varied and complex as the galaxy itself. Some are ancient gods, others are living forces of destruction, and still others are things that defy all attempts at understanding. They are the ultimate expression of chaos, the final darkness at the end of all things, the beings that wait in the shadows for the day when the barriers between realities finally break down, allowing them to consume all that exists. And for those who seek to summon them, the price is always the same: everything they have, everything they are, and everything they ever hope to become. The planets themselves play a crucial role in these dark rituals. It's not just about the sacrifices or the arcane knowledge required, it's about the very ground upon which the rites are performed. These worlds are not just passive backdrops to the madness. They are active participants, their very nature influencing the power and success of the rituals that take place upon their scarred and twisted surfaces. In many ways, the planet itself becomes a part of the ritual, a living, breathing altar to the dark forces being summoned. But what makes a planet dark enough to host such rituals? It's not just about geography or climate, though those can play a role. It's about the history of the place, the weight of its past, the echoes of the countless souls that have perished upon its surface. These are worlds steeped in death and madness, places where the veil between reality and the immaterium is thin, where the very air seems to vibrate with the whispers of forgotten horrors. They are places where the natural laws of the universe have been twisted, bent out of shape by the sheer weight of the darkness they contain. Some of these planets were once thriving worlds, vibrant with life and possibility, only to be consumed by the very rituals they now host. Others were born in darkness, their very cores infused with the raw, chaotic energy of the warp. These are places where reality itself is unstable, where time can flow backwards, where gravity twists and bends in impossible ways, where the ground bleeds and the sky weeps fire. It's as if the planet itself is trying to purge the darkness within it, like a wound that refuses to heal, its surface forever scarred by the horrors that have been unleashed upon it. In some cases, the very geography of the planet seems designed for these rituals. There are worlds with massive, naturally occurring stone circles, labyrinthine cave systems, and towering mountain peaks that seem almost purpose-built for dark ceremonies. It's as if the planet itself is inviting these rituals, calling out to the twisted minds that would seek to summon horrors from beyond the stars. Some believe that these worlds were shaped by the dark entities themselves, their surfaces molded over countless millennia to serve as the perfect summoning grounds for their return. And then there are the dead worlds, places where life has long since been snuffed out, where the echoes of past atrocities linger like a cold, suffocating mist. These are planets where entire civilizations have been wiped out, their populations sacrificed to dark gods or consumed by the very horrors they sought to control. The psychic residue of these tragedies can linger for centuries, tainting the very soul of the planet, making it a perfect breeding ground for further madness and destruction. Of course, it's not just the physical characteristics of the planet that matter. There is also the matter of its connection to the warp. Some planets are naturally closer to the immaterium, their gravitational fields warped and twisted by the pull of the dark dimension. These are places where reality is thin, where the boundaries between dimensions can be easily broken, where the very air crackles with the raw, chaotic energy of the warp. These are the places where dark rituals reach their full, horrifying potential, where the barriers between worlds can be torn asunder with a single whispered incantation. But perhaps the most terrifying thing about these planets is the way they seem to corrupt those who dwell upon them. It's said that even the strongest minds can be broken by prolonged exposure to these dark worlds, their thoughts twisted, their souls tainted by the sheer weight of the darkness around them. Entire populations have been driven mad, their cultures twisted into bizarre, self-destructive death cults, their lives dedicated to the summoning of horrors beyond imagination. It's a slow, insidious form of corruption, one that spreads like a disease, infecting every aspect of a society until it is nothing more than a living, breathing extension of the dark forces it seeks to summon. Some believe that these dark planets are themselves alive, that they feed on the suffering of those who walk their surfaces, that they draw power from the blood spilled upon their soil. They whisper to those who dare set foot upon them, planting dark thoughts in their minds, urging them to commit ever greater acts of cruelty and madness. It's as if the planets themselves crave the horrors they help summon, as if they are as much a part of the ritual as the twisted sorcerers who call upon them. It's a mistake to think that only the most deranged, chaos-worshipping madmen would dare to perform these dark planet rituals. In truth, almost every faction in the galaxy has, at some point, dabbled in these forbidden arts, each with their own twisted motivations and goals. The rituals themselves might vary wildly, depending on the culture, beliefs, and goals of the faction performing them, but the core idea remains the same: bending reality to one's will, summoning unimaginable power, and calling forth entities from the deepest, darkest corners of the cosmos. The forces of chaos, of course, are the most notorious for these kinds of rituals. For them, it's almost a way of life, a core part of their twisted philosophy. The followers of Khorne might offer up the blood and skulls of their enemies, reveling in the pure, unbridled violence of their sacrifices. For them, the ritual is an act of pure primal rage, a way of expressing their devotion to the blood god through the wholesale slaughter of entire worlds. They see the act of ritual sacrifice as a form of worship, a way of proving their strength and earning the favor of their bloodthirsty god. Tzeentch, on the other hand, takes a more cunning approach. His followers don't simply butcher their enemies. They twist reality itself, using their dark magics to warp the very fabric of the universe. Their rituals are intricate, filled with complex incantations and bizarre, ever-changing symbols that seem to shift and twist even as they are carved into the flesh of their victims. For them, the act of summoning is less about brute force and more about the subtle manipulation of fate itself, a way of bending the threads of destiny to their master's will. Then there are the followers of Nurgle, who see these rituals as a form of communion with their bloated, disease-ridden god. For them, the act of sacrifice is less about violence and more about decay, a slow, rotting process that mirrors the endless cycle of life and death. They spread plagues, rot entire worlds, and offer up the diseased and dying to their beloved grandfather Nurgle, their chants filling the air with the sickly, sweet stench of decay. It's a different kind of madness, one that sees beauty in the slow, inevitable collapse of all things. And of course, there are the followers of Slaanesh, whose rituals are perhaps the most twisted and depraved of all. For them, the act of sacrifice is an act of pure, unrestrained excess, a desperate attempt to push the boundaries of sensation and experience. They offer up their own followers, the slaves they have broken, and the prisoners they have captured, their screams of pleasure and pain echoing across the darkened halls of their twisted palaces. It's a ritual of indulgence, a hedonistic orgy of suffering and ecstasy that leaves their victims broken and their souls forever tainted by the touch of the Dark Prince. But it's not just the followers of chaos who practice these dark rites. Even the more civilized factions have been known to dabble in the forbidden arts when the need arises. The Inquisition, for example, has been known to perform dark rituals in their endless war against the forces of chaos, using the very powers they seek to destroy in a desperate bid to save humanity from extinction. It's a dangerous, slippery slope, one that has driven more than a few inquisitors to madness, their minds shattered by the knowledge of the horrors they have called forth. The Eldar, too, have their own dark rituals, though they are far more cautious in their use of such powers. They understand better than most the dangers of dabbling in the dark arts, having seen firsthand the destruction that such powers can bring. But even they are not above sacrificing entire worlds if it means preserving their dying race, their psychers whispering dark incantations as they call upon the ancient spirits of their ancestors for guidance. Even the Necrons, with their cold, emotionless logic, have been known to perform their own twisted version of these rituals. Though they have no gods to worship and no souls to offer, they have been known to harness the raw, chaotic energy of the warp in their endless war against the living. It's a cold, calculated form of madness, one that sees entire star systems reduced to lifeless, metal-strewn husks in the name of their endless, soulless crusade. And then there are the orcs, who, despite their brutish, seemingly simple nature, have their own form of ritualistic violence. They may not understand the dark forces they call upon, but their sheer, unrestrained bloodlust acts as a kind of psychic beacon, a massive, collective signal that draws the attention of dark entities from across the galaxy. It's a crude, barbaric form of summoning, but one that is no less effective for its simplicity. Even the Tau, with their supposed purity and logic, have been known to dabble in the dark arts when their backs are against the wall. They may claim to reject the superstitions of their more primitive allies, but even they are not immune to the seductive call of forbidden power. There are whispers of Tau commanders who have struck dark bargains with strange, otherworldly beings, their minds twisted by the touch of the warp, their armies driven to madness in their desperate bid for survival. The consequences of summoning cosmic horrors are as varied as the horrors themselves, but one thing is certain: they are never good. These beings are not meant to exist in our reality, and the act of calling them forth tears the very fabric of the universe, leaving scars that may never fully heal. The immediate effects are often catastrophic, but the long-term consequences can be even more devastating, echoing across the centuries, staining entire star systems with the psychic residue of unimaginable terror. In the short term, the effects are usually physical and immediate. When a cosmic horror is first brought into reality, the planet itself often reacts violently, as if the very ground is rejecting the abomination that has been forced upon it. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms. These are common, the planet's way of trying to purge itself of the unnatural presence. The very air can become toxic, the seas boil, and the skies darken as the entity's mere presence begins to twist the fundamental laws of nature. For the inhabitants of the planet, the arrival of a cosmic horror is nothing short of apocalyptic. Entire populations can be driven mad by the mere sight of these beings, their minds shattered by the impossible geometry and nightmarish forms of the creatures they once sought to worship. It's not just fear or terror. This is a complete breakdown of reality, a shattering of the very fabric of the mind as the thin veil that separates sanity from madness is torn away. Even the strongest wills can be broken, their minds left as nothing more than empty shells, their souls consumed by the darkness they once sought to control. But it's not just the physical and psychological effects that are so devastating. The very nature of the planet itself can be altered, twisted into something far darker and more dangerous. The ground itself might become tainted, forever soaked in the blood of the sacrifices that were made to call forth the horror. The air might become thick with the stench of decay, the sky choked with the ashes of the dead. Plants and animals can mutate, twisted into grotesque parodies of their former selves, their flesh and minds warped by the corrupting influence of the dark entity. And then there are the long-term effects, the slow, creeping corruption that can spread across entire star systems, infecting everything it touches. These cosmic horrors don't just consume matter and energy, they consume reality itself, warping it into shapes that defy understanding. Entire ecosystems can be twisted into bizarre, nightmarish forms, their once thriving populations reduced to little more than mindless, gibbering horrors, their very souls tainted by the dark energies that pulse through the planet's core. In some cases, the planet itself becomes a living extension of the horror, its surface twisted into a vast, rotting altar, its mountains and valleys shaped into the twisted, screaming faces of the souls that were sacrificed to summon the entity. It becomes a place of pure, undiluted madness, a world where time flows differently, where the very laws of physics are twisted beyond recognition, where the air itself seems to pulse with a dark, malevolent intelligence. And the worst part? These effects are often permanent. Even if the horror is somehow banished or destroyed, the damage it has done to the fabric of reality can never truly be undone. The planet remains forever tainted, its surface a scarred and twisted reminder of the madness that once consumed it. Even the souls of those who died there can never truly rest, their final screams echoing across the centuries, their spirits forever trapped in the twisted nightmare that their world has become. Of course, the effects aren't always limited to the planet itself. Entire star systems can be destabilized, their gravitational fields twisted and bent by the presence of a cosmic horror. Black holes can form where none existed before, suns can collapse into themselves, and entire worlds can be torn apart as the horror's presence warps the very fabric of space-time. In some cases, the entire sector can become a dead zone, a place where no ship dares to travel, where the very stars themselves seem to flicker and dim in the presence of a darkness that defies all reason. And then there are the more abstract effects. Some say that the very act of summoning a cosmic horror can weaken the barriers between realities, making it easier for other, lesser horrors to slip through the cracks. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that each summoning brings the universe one step closer to complete annihilation, each sacrifice a tiny, incremental step towards the end of all things. But perhaps the most horrifying consequence of all is the way these rituals can corrupt the very souls of those who perform them. It's not just a physical or psychological corruption, it's a spiritual one, a slow, insidious taint that can twist even the purest of souls into monsters. Those who perform these rituals often find themselves changed, their minds forever tainted by the dark knowledge they have glimpsed, their bodies twisted into grotesque parodies of their former selves. They become living extensions of the horror they sought to control, their souls forever bound to the darkness they once sought to command. The price of power in these dark rituals is always high, and it's never just a matter of blood or sacrifice. These are not simple bargains, not just transactions where a few lives are exchanged for a burst of dark energy. No, the costs of performing these rituals go far deeper, cutting into the very soul of those who dare to call upon the powers of the void. It's a price that can never truly be paid in full, a debt that echoes across lifetimes, stretching into eternity. For many, the most obvious cost is physical. These rituals often demand the spilling of blood, the offering of flesh, the consumption of raw, undiluted pain and suffering. Entire populations can be wiped out, their bodies broken, and their souls consumed by the dark forces that have been called forth. It's a brutal, bloody process, one that leaves entire worlds scarred and twisted, their landscapes forever marked by the horrors that have been unleashed upon them. But it's not just the lives of others that are sacrificed in these rituals. Often, the practitioners themselves must offer up pieces of their own souls, their own sanity, their own sense of self. It's a form of spiritual cannibalism, a slow, insidious corruption that eats away at the very essence of the summoner, twisting their mind and body into grotesque, unnatural forms. It's not uncommon for these sorcerers to become little more than living husks, their flesh twisted, their minds shattered, their very souls consumed by the darkness they once sought to control. And then there are the psychological costs, the slow, creeping madness that comes from glimpsing the true nature of the universe, from touching the raw, unfiltered chaos that lies just beyond the veil of reality. Many who perform these rituals find themselves forever changed, their minds shattered by the horrors they have witnessed, their dreams haunted by the screams of the souls they have sacrificed. They become paranoid, delusional, their thoughts twisted and corrupted by the dark forces they have called upon. It's a form of spiritual radiation, a slow, insidious poisoning of the mind that leaves even the strongest wills broken and hollow. But perhaps the most dangerous cost of all is the spiritual one. These rituals often involve the complete surrender of one's soul, the willing sacrifice of one's very identity to the dark forces being summoned. It's a form of self-destruction, a complete and total annihilation of the self, a final, desperate act of surrender to the darkness that lies beyond the stars. Those who take this path often find themselves transformed, their bodies and minds twisted into grotesque, inhuman shapes, their souls forever bound to the horrors they once sought to control. And then there are the more abstract costs, the things that can't be measured in blood or pain. These rituals often require the surrender of one's very humanity, the complete rejection of all that makes us human, our compassion, our empathy, our sense of right and wrong. It's a form of spiritual lobotomy, a cutting away of all that is good and pure, leaving only the dark, twisted core of hatred and despair that lies at the heart of every living being. Some believe that the ultimate price of these rituals is not just the loss of one's soul, but the complete and utter destruction of one's very existence. It's said that those who perform these rituals are forever bound to the dark forces they summon, their souls consumed, their identities erased, their very essence absorbed into the infinite darkness that lies beyond the veil of reality. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that one's very existence could be erased, one's soul consumed, one's memories forgotten, one's very identity erased from the fabric of the universe. And yet, despite all of this, there are always those who are willing to pay the price, to sacrifice everything they have, everything they are, for a taste of the power that lies just beyond the veil of reality. They are the desperate, the broken, the mad, the ones who have nothing left to lose, who crave the ultimate form of power, no matter the cost. They see the darkness not as a thing to be feared, but as a path to ultimate power, a final, desperate gamble for control in a galaxy that offers little but chaos and death. Failed rituals are perhaps even more terrifying than successful ones, because when things go wrong, the consequences can be catastrophic on a scale that defies imagination. These rituals are already playing with forces far beyond mortal comprehension, tapping into the raw, chaotic energies of the warp, calling forth beings that defy the very laws of reality. When something goes wrong, when a word is misspoken, when a line is drawn incorrectly, when the sacrifices are found wanting, the results can be devastating. For starters, failed rituals often result in the immediate destruction of the summoners themselves. The dark entities they seek to call forth are not known for their patience or forgiveness. If a ritual fails, if the summoners fail to provide the proper sacrifices or show the appropriate devotion, the very beings they sought to control often turn on them, consuming their souls, tearing their bodies apart, and scattering their remains across the void. It's a brutal, violent end, one that leaves little more than blood and ash in its wake. But it's not just the summoners who suffer. Entire planets can be torn apart by the backlash of a failed ritual, their surfaces cracked and shattered by the sudden release of uncontrolled warp energy. The ground can open up, swallowing entire cities. The skies can darken as the very air itself catches fire, and the oceans can boil away into nothingness. It's a planetary apocalypse, a cataclysmic event that can reduce entire worlds to lifeless, airless husks in a matter of hours. And then there are the more abstract consequences. When a ritual fails, the barriers between reality and the warp can be permanently weakened, leaving entire star systems vulnerable to the predations of the dark forces that lurk beyond the veil. These failed rituals often leave behind rifts in the fabric of reality, tears in the very fabric of the universe that can never truly be repaired. These rifts can act as gateways, allowing lesser demons and other warp-spawned horrors to slip through into our reality, spreading madness and destruction wherever they go. In some cases, these rifts can even expand, growing larger with each passing year, until they threaten to consume entire sectors of the galaxy. Entire civilizations have been lost to these rifts, their worlds swallowed up by the ever-expanding madness, their populations reduced to little more than screaming, gibbering horrors as the raw chaos of the warp washes over them. It's a slow, creeping form of destruction, one that can take centuries to fully unfold, but once it begins, there is no stopping it. And then there are the psychological effects. Those who survive a failed ritual are often left broken, their minds shattered by the horrors they have witnessed, their souls tainted by the dark energies they have unleashed. They become little more than mindless husks, their bodies twisted and corrupted, their minds filled with nothing but the endless screams of the souls they have sacrificed. It's a fate worse than death, a living nightmare from which there is no escape. But perhaps the most terrifying consequence of a failed ritual is the way it can alter the course of history itself. Entire factions have been destroyed, entire civilizations brought to their knees by the fallout from a single failed summoning. Empires have crumbled, their armies shattered, their worlds reduced to lifeless, airless husks, all because of a single poorly executed ritual. It's a sobering thought, the idea that the fate of entire star systems can be decided by the actions of a few desperate, power-hungry madmen. Some believe that even the mighty Imperium of Man has nearly been brought to ruin by failed rituals, its worlds torn apart, its armies shattered, its populations driven to madness by the uncontrolled warp energies that have been unleashed upon them. There are whispers of entire Space Marine chapters that have been lost to the madness, their bodies twisted, their minds broken, their very souls consumed by the darkness they once sought to control. And yet, despite all of this, these rituals continue. There are always those who are willing to take the risk, to gamble with the very fabric of reality, to reach for the ultimate power, no matter the cost. They see the darkness not as a thing to be feared, but as a path to ultimate power, a final desperate gamble for control in a galaxy that offers little but chaos and death. When it comes to dark planet rituals, there's no shortage of fan theories and wild speculation. These rituals are, by their very nature, shrouded in mystery, their origins lost to the mists of time, their true purposes known only to the twisted minds that dare to perform them. But that hasn't stopped countless fans from speculating about their true nature, their hidden meanings, and the terrifying secrets they might conceal. One of the most common theories is that these rituals are not merely acts of desperation or madness, but part of a much larger, more sinister plan. Some believe that the dark gods themselves are using these rituals as a way of slowly eroding the barriers between reality and the warp, weakening the very fabric of the universe, making it easier for them to slip through into our reality. It's a chilling thought, the idea that every failed ritual, every whispered incantation, every spilled drop of blood is not just a random act of chaos, but a carefully orchestrated part of a much larger cosmic plan. Others believe that the rituals are actually a form of communication, a way of sending messages across the void, of reaching out to the dark entities that lurk in the spaces between realities. It's said that these rituals can be used to call forth not just physical beings, but ideas, concepts, entire philosophies that can infect the minds of those who come into contact with them. It's a form of spiritual corruption, a slow, insidious infection that spreads like a virus, twisting the thoughts and souls of those it touches, driving entire civilizations to madness. And then there's the idea that these rituals are not just about power or control, but about transformation. Some believe that those who perform these rituals are actually trying to ascend, to transform themselves into beings of pure, undiluted chaos, to shed their mortal forms and become something greater, something more terrible. It's a dangerous, desperate form of self-destruction, a final reckless gamble for ultimate power, one that often ends in madness, death, or worse. There are also those who believe that these rituals are not just a means of summoning, but a form of time travel, a way of reaching back into the distant past or forward into the dark, uncertain future. It's said that the most powerful of these rituals can bend the very fabric of time itself, allowing those who perform them to glimpse the distant past or peer into the horrifying future that awaits us all. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that these rituals are not just about power, but about knowledge, about seeing the universe as it truly is, in all its dark, uncaring glory. Some even believe that these rituals are a form of cosmic gardening, a way of seeding the universe with new life, of creating entire worlds and civilizations, only to destroy them when they have outlived their usefulness. It's a twisted, nihilistic form of creation, one that sees entire star systems as little more than experiments, their populations little more than disposable pawns in a game that spans entire galaxies. And then there are the truly wild theories, the ones that suggest that these rituals are not merely acts of summoning, but acts of creation, that the horrors they call forth are not just beings, but entire realities, alternate dimensions where the laws of physics break down, where time itself ceases to have meaning, where the very fabric of the universe is twisted into shapes that defy comprehension. It's a terrifying thought, the idea that every dark planet ritual is not just an act of destruction, but an act of creation, a way of bringing entire new realities into existence, worlds of pure, undiluted madness that exist only to serve the twisted whims of their creators. And then there are those who believe that these rituals are actually a form of self-sacrifice, that those who perform them are not just seeking power, but trying to erase themselves from existence, to become one with the dark forces they seek to control, to transcend the limits of mortality and become something greater, something more terrible. It's a final, desperate act of self-destruction, a way of shedding one's physical form, of becoming a living extension of the dark entities that dwell in the spaces between realities. But perhaps the most terrifying theory of all is the idea that these rituals are not just about summoning or control, but about understanding, that those who perform them are actually trying to comprehend the true nature of the universe, to pierce the veil of reality and see the world as it truly is. It's a dangerous, desperate quest for knowledge, one that often ends in madness, death, or worse. But for those who succeed, the rewards are unimaginable. Looking back at everything we've covered, it's clear that these dark planet rituals are among the most terrifying and twisted aspects of the Warhammer 40K universe. They are acts of pure, unfiltered madness, desperate gambits for power that defy all logic and reason, reckless attempts to call forth beings that should never be allowed to exist in our reality. They are the final, desperate acts of those who have nothing left to lose, the last, desperate screams of civilizations on the brink of destruction, the twisted prayers of the broken and the damned. What makes these rituals so terrifying is not just the power they call upon, but the sheer reckless desperation of those who perform them. These are not the carefully calculated, well-planned actions of rational beings. They are the desperate, reckless gambles of those who are willing to sacrifice everything, to risk their very souls for a taste of the power that lies just beyond the veil of reality. They are the ultimate acts of defiance, the final reckless throws of the dice in a game that can only end in madness, death, and destruction. And yet, despite all of this, despite the madness, the horror, the unimaginable cost, these rituals continue. They are a part of the fabric of the galaxy, a dark, twisted reflection of the chaos and destruction that lies at the heart of all things. They are a reminder of the darkness that lies within us all, the desperate, unending hunger for power, the reckless, self-destructive desire to control the uncontrollable, to touch the untouchable, to become something more than human. But perhaps the most terrifying thing of all is the idea that these rituals are not just random acts of chaos and destruction, but part of a much larger, more sinister plan. Perhaps the dark gods themselves are using these rituals as a way of slowly eroding the barriers between reality and the warp, weakening the very fabric of the universe, making it easier for them to slip through into our reality. Perhaps every failed ritual, Every whispered incantation, every spilled drop of blood is not just a random act of chaos, but a carefully orchestrated part of a much larger cosmic plan. In the end, the true nature of these rituals remains a mystery, their secrets known only to the twisted minds that dare to perform them, their true purposes lost to the ages, their hidden meanings forever concealed beneath layers of blood, darkness, and madness. But for those who are willing to risk everything, to sacrifice their very souls in the pursuit of ultimate power, the rewards are limitless, the possibilities endless, the horrors unimaginable. So, if you find yourself standing on the edge of a dark, forgotten world, with the whispers of ancient, forgotten gods echoing in your mind, remember the price of power, the cost of control, the terrible, unending price of summoning that which should never be called forth. Remember the madness, the horror, the eternal, unending darkness that awaits those who dare to walk this path. And if you find yourself tempted to take that final, reckless step into the void, remember this: some doors once opened can never truly be closed. Thank you for watching. And if you want to see more deep dives into the darkest corners of the Warhammer 40K universe, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. We're just scratching the surface of the horrors that lie beyond the veil of reality, and there's so much more to explore, so stay tuned for more.